Hi, everyone. You are watching The Self Connection with Ginny Brown and Kelly Pietro, where we have conversations with a group of ascended masters known as the Multitude of the Greater Good.
Kelly asked the questions, and I channel the answers from the multitude who are interested in helping you become a better you. They have access to from the day of creation to the present, plus whatever it is that you have chosen to accomplish in this lifetime. And they are willing to share their love, care, and expertise with us to help move us along our paths.
All right, Jen, thanks for being here, for channeling. Thanks to the multitude for
Thank
being here.
you.
All right, so some of these questions started off with some viewer questions, and then I figured, well, there's topics that we could pepper in there. So let's just see where we go. I'm curious myself to see where we go. I think we're going to be traveling the universe with this one. And I think we've covered some of these topics before, but maybe there'll be different little highlights here. So, what can the multitude tell us about, if any, okay, hang on. What can the multitude tell us about all, if any, living beings that have at any time, for any period of time, or currently do live beneath the Earth's surface? This is a viewer question.
It is important to understand that on the earth plane, there are many beings. There are many items of retrieval of life and living. However, within the earth's surface, there are no beings on the 3D level. There are those who believe that there are beings living on the earth plane within the earth. However, we can tell you that it is an impossibility. There are no beings able to live within the earth's surface. We can tell you, however, that in a different dimension, there are beings who love living in the earth's energy. Therefore, they allow themselves the possibility of allowing the energy of the earth plane to help them grow and be. We can tell you if it is one is interested in living within the earth's it's like within the earth, in the dirt center of the earth. One is able to allow oneself the energetic possibility once one leaves the physicality of the earth plane. However, we can tell you no physical person is able to live within the earth's dimensions unless it is that they choose to build a house, a home, or something underground. Otherwise, it cannot happen. Do not be concerned.
Oh, well, that puts that to bed.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question. What or whom is living in Antarctica, and why, and what is being hidden or protected there?
Um, I've never heard of anything like that. So let's see. It is important to understand that there are many things living in the Antarctic. However, 99% of them are not of the earthly dimension. We can tell you in our estimation, it is right that one understand that there is more to the earth plane than that which meets the eye. However, we can tell you it is not a physical being. It is an energetic sense of self and understanding that is encased in Antarctica as it is in every other part of the earth. In our estimation, one can only be, see, do, understand what lies before them on the earth plane. However, there are those that connect with the energies, and the energies, therefore, are reachable. However, they are energies, and they are not beings. They are not animals. They are not anything other than energy. Do not be concerned, all is love.
Okay, so I think I've heard some talk of this, so let's see if I can expand on that. Like some people will claim that humans are taking up residence there, it's not the right word, in order to investigate, I think, those energies, or maybe run some covert operations. And I think that's what this person's trying to get at. Like, what type of human activity is happening down there, and what are the humans trying to explore down there?
It is important that there is much human activity there. There is that part of self that says, oh, I wonder what's under the snow. I wonder what's under the water. I wonder what it is that's there that I cannot see. Those are the types of inquiries being made of the Antarctic. We can tell you they will find some things and not others, as they are not adept at energy. When one is able to access energy, one is able to understand that there is much more to uncover. At this time of being, however, there is not much to be found other than what one already knows or already sees. Do not be concerned.
Okay, so humans are not currently exploring the realm of energy in that area?
It is important to understand most humans are not aware of the energy that they are. Um, it's like presenting, being that which is around them. They can only see what they can see. They see that there are beings, they see that there are places. However, they cannot connect with the energy that would bring more love, care, and understanding. Therefore, they are unaware that it even exists. Do not be concerned.
Okay, then what can they tell us about the energies that do exist there, the nature of them, the qualities, how we can understand and work with them?
Well, I don't know what they're going to tell us, but the feeling I got when you said that was like a calm relaxation. It is important to understand it is an energetic sense of self. And when one allows one self to be who one is able to move oneself forward in such a way. When one is able to say, oh, okay, I am able to understand that there is more that meets the eye, they will understand that there is more that meets the eye. In the meantime, they are unable to access more than that which they already know. I don't know.
Okay, so they're not going to tell us much. I guess it might depend on who's.
When one is able and ready, one will learn how to access information on their own. They will allow themselves the ability of the feeling self, and the feeling self will give them a great more detail of information than can be understood at this moment on the earth plane.
Okay, yeah, so it sounds like it also really depends on the individual tapping into the energy down there, because we each pick up on our own what we're capable of and what our soul maybe is guiding us to. So I guess that's what I'm getting out of that.
Okay.
Okay. Is Steven Greer's information on aliens and government conspiracy true?
I have no idea what that information is. It is important to understand that there is a great deal happening on the earth plane. Some is above board, most is not. We can tell you there is a great deal happening in the land of conspiracy. When one is able to understand that which is right in front of them and see something different, they cannot understand what has actually happened. They make up in their own minds what they believe it to be or what they want it to be, therefore allowing themselves to be swayed in one direction or another. We can tell you there is a great deal of misunderstanding on the earth plane. And when one believes there is a problem, there is a problem. However, we can tell you when one is ready to accept that which is and accept that, yes, there may be certain things that, oh, I don't like this and I don't like that, but that is how it is at the moment. Then they will be able to move forward. And if it is that they decide, oh, I don't like this, I'm changing it. I'm allowing myself to understand it in such a way as to make it different. Therefore, I will spread the information I know. In our estimation, it is important to understand that spreading conspiracies on the knowing of being is not accurate or helpful to anyone. Therefore, we would highly recommend that each one look deep into their heart and allow themselves to understand what it is that they know, what it is that they want, and how it is for them to be. Therefore, acknowledging themselves and their own understanding of being in order to allow the all that is to step in and help them on their journey. Do not be concerned, all is love.
Okay, I don't know if I got an answer that satisfies the question, but
But
I've heard him talk a little bit about, like, I don't know if it's called like the government black budget on alien investigation or something. Like, in other words, like I think some of what he says talks about, and I could have this wrong. Let me just be careful with my words because I don't want to like misspeak. But I think some of what he talks about is like there is money spent on like government money spent on investigating alien technology that even like the president is not aware of. It happens kind of off to the side unknowingly of government leaders that they're not even privy to, like it's an exclusivity kind of thing. And I think his work is trying to expose some of that. And I think that is what this person is asking, like, is that true?
okay. I think their answer to the first one was basically about conspiracies. It is important to understand that there could possibly be those who are trying to understand more about aliens and alien life. However, when it is that it is in capacity of being, it is known to whomever is doing the investigating, whether it be the government, whether it be the president, it does not matter. Those in charge are quite well aware of what's happening, even if the general population is not. We can tell you it is not a secret from most governmental, I'm getting agencies or proprieties. It is only a secret from the ordinary citizens. In our estimation, however, we can tell you that there is much being accomplished. 99% of it, however, has to do with the quote alien unquote population, as they are quite sure of what they need and what they want. And when they are ready to share their information, they do. It does not carry a negative implication by being an alien. What it says is that there are beings that those on the earth plane are aware of, but not very well acquainted with. And when they are ready, they will make their acquaintances. In our estimation, it is important to understand there is much technology, much information being shared from the quote alien nations that allow one on the earth plane to allow more. In our estimation, the aliens, so to speak, are higher level vibratory energies who are ready to move forward a bit differently, and they allow themselves to expand themselves and help those on the earth plane that they can. Do not be concerned.
Okay, thanks. Okay, it's funny, these next two topics often get talked about with this, so interesting that they're both coming in. Can the multitude explain the truthful process of remote viewing?
It is important to understand that when one is in the process of remote viewing, one is in the process of connecting with oneself and allowing the all that is to step in. And if the all that is steps in and allows one the possibility or ability of connecting with one's desired uh, consequence of being, one is able to effectively gain insight and information. However, there are those who believe that they are remote viewing when actually they are connecting with themselves. Therefore, the energy will be lower and slower, and those who are able to actually allow themselves the ability to connect with themselves in spirit, allowing the all that is to step in, they will allow the information to flow beautifully. Do not be concerned.
Yeah, so it's kind of more a vertical connection than a horizontal. Like people think, oh, I'm I'm gonna view this other location. For people who don't know what remote viewing is, it's like psychically tuning into another location. And I think it gets lumped in with these government conspiracy things because people talk about the government uses remote viewing as a tool for strategy. And there's been interviews with actually this one woman. I did watch an interview with this one woman who is, I don't know, probably like in her 60s or 70s and was doing this back, I mean, decades ago, helping the government to locate, I don't know if it was prisoners of war or kidnapped people or whatever. Anyway, and she described it just how the multitude said it's really connecting with your higher self and getting information that way versus like connecting to a place. It's like you connect to your
Spiritual.
your spiritual being to gain access to the all that is versus like, I don't know, maybe it's just my way of understanding it. Okay, so does the government use remote viewing as part of its strategy?
That is exactly what it is, Kelly, what you were saying. You connect with yourself in spirit, which allows, they've mentioned this before, and I don't know if it's here or in some of the groups that we've been involved in, but that's exactly how it works.
Yeah, they talked about it in I think the last episode we recorded about energy of a place.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's kind of the same thing.
Connect with yourself
Yeah.
with the help of others and guides and other information. You allow
Yeah.
that. The question was, uh,
Uh, does the government use remote viewing as a strategy or tool?
it is important to understand the government uses whatever tools that they can access or allow themselves access to, and remote viewing is one of them. However, there are those in the government who believe remote viewing is it's like not trustworthy. And we can tell you it is not the viewing that is not trustworthy. It is the person doing the viewing that is unable to allow oneself to connect on the higher levels of being with one's own self. Therefore, we would highly recommend that if the government is interested in doing remote viewing, that they hire only the highest and the best connected individual to connect with oneself in spirit. Do not be concerned, all is love.
Yeah, and you can see that in this interview. I wish I could remember this woman's name or mention the interview who was interviewing her. You could tell that she was really connecting to a higher place of knowing, but that what she was talking about, how her colleagues would talk about this skill was like totally disregarding I call it like the spiritual aspect, right? But they just think it's a skill that you learn and you do it. And that, yeah, to be connected in a higher and greater way was not even a thought or consideration.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah, but that's how I get the energy is I connect with my spiritual self, the all that is, and then allow the energy to flow. That's in my opinion, that's the only way it can work.
yeah, I think what the multitude just told us is that's the best way to work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, I think we'll do one more. Is it true that governments have been using LSD/MK Ultra as a way of understanding and using mind control?
We can tell you that those uh, drugs, because they're drugs, we can tell you that those drugs are misplaced and misused. If it is that one is interested in expanding themselves, there are far easier ways than allowing themselves to disconnect with themselves. It is important to understand it is the connection that is most important. When one connects with oneself, one is allowing the information to flow. When one tries LSD, for instance, one believes one is disconnected and able to access more of self. However, we can tell you 99% of the time they are just disconnected. Do not be concerned.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about that, so I'll leave it at that. If anyone is listening and they have follow-up questions to these viewer questions or they want uh, clarification, go ahead and send those questions our way. I think that's all for today, Ginny. That kind of lumped some things that overlap often out in the world today together. So hopefully that satisfies those who are interested in those topics. So, actually, though, let's ask the multitude if they want to give us a closing message on this topic or these topics.
It is important to understand that there is much disinformation being discharged around the world. Some of it is able to be what exposed, and some of it is just explanations for things that those who cannot understand what is happening choose to label it as, so to speak. In our estimation, it is important to understand that there are many things that are happening on the earth plane that one on the earth plane is quite well unaware of. Therefore, one believes it is a problem. In our estimation, it is not a problem. It is moving forward. Do not be concerned. All is love.
All righty.
Okay.
Thanks, Ginny. Thanks for channeling, and thanks to the multitude for enlightening us on some esoteric concepts.
We are most pleased to share our information. However, 90% of what it is that we are knowing or in knowing of is not understandable on the earth plane, as there is far more happening than one can understand on the earth plane. Therefore, we would highly recommend for each one to focus on their own knowing, their own self, their own it's like extension of being who they are, what it is that they need to allow themselves to allow their vibration to expand. Do not be concerned, all is love. Thank you for asking, and thank you for allowing us to impart our energy of love and care. And all is love.
Thank you. I kind of want to just like one last question, because I think there is, to their point, there's a lot of misinformation that floats around, but then there's a lot of information that is like coming out of shadows. And sometimes, especially now with the amount of information that is available to people, discernment can be tricky because you're hearing opposing views, you're hearing different their personal experience, you're hearing, just different opinions. How can one best discern to learn their own true knowing and the real truth of what is going on? What's
It
it?
is understand that when one recognizes truth, one feels truth within oneself. And when one is unsure, there is an unsettling feeling within oneself. And when one knows something is incorrect, whether they know it in their mind self or not, they will feel the feeling of misconnection, misinformation. And when one allows oneself to feel those feelings, one will allow oneself to move forward in that which one knows. Do not be concerned.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about this before we recorded, right? Because Ginny and I will talk a little bit. We were talking about something completely off topic, and I asked her to ask a question, but then I already kind of felt the answer, and then when she channeled it, it confirmed the answer. So then I was saying how my experience of tapping into that knowing was like I could feel a skepticism within me about this topic, right? It was like, is that true? And I could feel this, like, it's so subtle. It's so subtle you could miss it. It's not fear, it's not anxiety, because, when you hear people's opinions or, it can feel fearful and anxious. It's not that. It's just this slight, I don't know about that. It's so subtle. And I think that's what they're talking about.
Right. I think a lot of people don't even know to ask that question. They just take it at face value. So if one will focus on the feeling of their body, it will give them a bit of information that they are not yet well aware of.
Yeah, so just to ask, as you're presented with somebody's opinion or their experience and their interpretation of something, you can ask yourself, is that true? And then you can feel like either certainty within your body or, no. So start practicing that tuning into your own knowing is like a good practice to do, especially when you're faced with some information that you're not sure about.
Exactly. All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you, Kelly, for asking your questions.
Thanks, Jen, and thanks to our viewers who sent questions in to make this entire episode possible. Keep them coming. All the links are in the description of the YouTube video. If you want to set up a one-on-one with Ginny to have your own personal questions answered, if you want to submit your questions so that we can ask them here on the show, if you want a one-on-one with me, either for herbal or energy work, all of our links are there in the episode description. We'd love to work with you.
Yeah, and please be sure to subscribe so that these videos get out there more for more people to be able to see them. So, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time on the Self Connection.
Bye.
Bye.